Welcome to our inner circle. Imagine our 181st session from the start. So that's why I'm so proud of this inner circle. Our guest now is Frank Chen. He is a hotel general manager and an entrepreneur who turned personal setbacks into a path toward clarity, success, and meaningful relationships. After overcoming a past divorce, he rebuilt both his career and personal life, eventually finding lasting love through modern dating. He shares real practical insights on resilience, growth, and navigating life's challenges. Okay, without further ado, let me introduce to you Frank Chen. Frank, welcome to the inner circle.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, Cynthia. Our connection dated back for almost I would say there's 7, 8 years now at this point. It's 2026 already. Can't even imagine. That
Uh,
is a long time already. I've had the privilege of working with Cynthia on my darkest moment, I call it. And she had all the kindness and patience in the world to listen to me. Not only to vent, but also in that moment, trying to figure out what is it that I'm even hanging on to at that moment. And that she was a great listener and she was a great coach at that time. Kind of thought it through. And later I moved to New York. There's a whole lot more I'm going to tell you guys about my journey. She was definitely a good pivotal point for me during this whole struggle. I'm going to start from the very beginning, how I got married first at a very young age. I got married in 2018 to my ex-wife, who we only met for just over 4 months, I believe, at the time. So definitely a speedy one, if you will. We got married during that summer. Some of it because of immigration status, but some of it also because I was at a moment in my life that I thought, hey, I met the right person. I might as well make the decision right away. I'm not scared to make a trial. I'm not scared of essentially being that person there, being the provider, and taking on all these responsibility at the time. So very typical. It happened in the young age as well, and many of the younger were more earlier marriages. It just turned out to be that moment where the two of us are not fully grown to who we were, who we wanted to be yet, or who we are, or who we destined to be at that moment. So she was even younger than me. In 2018, I was also a workaholic. I was one of the youngest director of operations for the Marriott system. So I was working myself to death in the moment. Definitely over 60, 80 hours a week type of deal was what was even a common thing for me. So I didn't really have whole lot of time for family or really think about what is it that I want from this marriage. But then 2019 rolls around, we were going into many of the marriage travels. My ex-wife was from Philippines, so we went around the U.S. as a travel, and we also went around in Philippines, and we went back to my home, where my parents now moved back to China. So we did a whole global travel there. We had greatest time in the world, and we were happy. We were posting everything on the internet at that time, and then in the 2020 when COVID hit, there was that moment of contrast, if you will. Everybody just locked it on at home, and we had a lot some early arguments, and we had a pretty turbulent career at that time because hospitality industry at that time was definitely hit the most, where many people are not allowed to travel anymore. Not a whole lot of people are staying at hotels anymore. And I took on a Master of Business and Administration degree. I was working on all of that. There were a lot of life choice changes in that moment. In 2020, signs of early arguments has already rolled around where we weren't able to resolve many things, even the smallest argument. It seems to me now in retrospect that many of these things could have been talked out and set up a new house rule in a way that could have been prevented in the future. But instead, because how immature and also how young the both of us are and how inexperienced that we are, we tend to not having that experience to kind of work it out, if you will. So it was just repeated, and then it escalated later down the road too. Then in 2021, however, we had a lot of intensified lifestyle conflicts. She wanted different things in her life. She met different friends, and she wanted a different career. And it really at a point that we felt strongly that it was necessary for the both of us to separate. And we basically separated around the mid-year or so. Mid-year, I think around October or so at that time, just to mark the 3 years of a marriage. Then I was very much emotionally invested, financially invested as well. Pretty much everywhere invested. I wasn't in a mood of even going through lawsuits and all that stuff to try to figure out the financial implications. I pretty much all give it away, saying that you know what, I'm really not in the mood of trying to figure out how to end this, because it was very hurting or heartbreaking for me at that moment to realize that, hey, someone I really put up a lot of faith and trust in the end turned out to be not only just not the right person, but also it kind of got a little ugly in the end, where, you know, younger arguments are not as rational as it is, and many things didn't turn out the way we would like to be. And I'll just leave it at that. But then that moment, we signed a paper and all that. It begins a long, lengthy, back and forth, chaotic. You can throw all the kind of words in there to describe this struggle and recovery to where I am right now. And 2021 and 2022, between those 2 years, are probably the most struggling winter. That winter was one of the most struggling, darkest winter of all that I've experienced in the first few decades of my life. And I sometimes refer to it, it feels like I was having a high fever. And everything was not making sense. I wasn't thinking straight, and I wasn't physically fit either. I was hospitalized for COVID and for a couple of other things as well. I had a minor car accident, and all my friends were moving away from Columbus at that time. So I literally was left in the little corner of my own, and I didn't feel like I have. And my parents just moved back to China, and my sister was still in New York. I don't have family member around here. Now, the only family I had at the time divorced me, and essentially, it was good for the both of us, but still left with that fact that I'm kind of feeling like I'm a little rootless in the moment. I don't know where I'm going back to. It feels like New York was so far away. The family was so far away too, but then also at the same time, I couldn't find a place to harbor my ship at the moment when the storms are going outside and on the ocean. So at that moment, I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do? And it was definitely a few months, at the minimum, a few months of confusion, where I was actually moving out from the place I was living before and moved into. I remember very clearly, for 3 months that I lived in that place, I did not even unpack a thing. I was living on life support basically. I don't know what I was doing. I don't know what I'm gonna do later on. I was just finishing up my MBA as well. Barely. I made that. I made that. I actually finished that, so I was able to actually graduate from an MBA. And after almost 2.5 years dragging on for so long, but then a couple hospitalization there. I had a minor car accident during winter, like I mentioned as well. In those moments, my family essentially lost contact with me. I didn't have an emergency contact in a way. My family was calling on my phone. It wasn't answering. It almost happened for like 2-3 weeks. One, I kind of was not in a physical state to kind of answer those phones. And second, in a way, I wasn't in a mental state to really answer any of that. You know, I got married without a whole lot of blessing for the family either. They were kind of cautious about the things, but they were supportive. But then at the end, I feel a little shame for that. Hey, you know, it didn't turn out the way, just like you said. It's just like you said. So it was very difficult for me in the beginning to accept the fact that it had all ended. And it was even more difficult for me to accept that I did not have a plan for it. And I think going deeper on this is that my life prior to this marriage has always been, with some problems and struggles, with some in mind, obviously, has always been pretty smooth in a way. That I was an early achiever. You know, I was a very high academic achiever as well in school. And when I was one of the youngest managers to ever be in that position, and I always got the compliments from my peer, and all that stuff. And then in that moment, you realize that, you know what, this marriage is not like that. It's not a career that you can just solve. It's not a problem you can just solve it. There are so many things involved in it that's just completely out of your control. Just like what the other person would like to do in life, or what the other person will have changed in life whatsoever. It has nothing to do with my plan or my plan that set out for the two of us. It could have just shadowed in one day. That's something that deeply reflected now is one. Second is that I think one of the biggest things during that darkest moment is that one of the couple of friends that I met out, I wasn't very religious at that time. There were moments in between where I was introduced to God and I joined a lot of church sessions and then, started to really understand what faith means and really started to use faith as a tool and also as a backbone to support myself on. There was a funny moment I was saying. There was one time I was so, well, in a way that I wasn't able to stay at home at that time because the argument that we were having. So I went on a little drive myself. Just I told myself, you know what, I'm gonna go all the way east. So I went drive, just no matter what on the road, it's more of a space out moment for myself, listen to music and just calm myself down. And in between, somewhere at the end of the road, I parked and I received a phone call. This is a crazy moment. I actually received a phone call from the exact number of myself. It was very strange. I could not figure out by myself still. I received a phone call for myself. It's actually the same digits that I got. And when I answered it, it immediately hung up. There was no sound, no nothing, no whatsoever. It could be a glitch, could be whatever. I took it as a sign of God telling me, you got to listen to yourself. And for the longest time in my life, I've always been planning the next step, planning the next success story, planning everything that I needed to do. I seemed to be trying to hit them one by one, even with some struggle. At that moment, I never really experienced a complete failure moment that I couldn't figure out why. And I think that was God's sign to me. And basically, you know what? All the answers that you're looking for is within you. You need to listen to yourself, what you're feeling, not what is right and what the other person, what's the plan that you're going to do for them, but what you're exactly feeling emotionally. And something, just let it out. Because I had always, now that I'm looking back to this, is that always I had this struggle to have a direct conversation, a candid conversation with myself. I was always living under other people's expectation or some textbook expectation of, here's the right thing to do. Here are the 10 tips of success I need to follow. But what it really means to me is sometimes ignored. And especially the negative feelings that I've been getting from this marriage or from a lot of these struggles that I'm getting, I have nowhere to let it out. And I never really felt like it was necessary to let it out either. I see that as a negative thing in life. I see that as almost, in a way, a failure of its own. But instead, now that I'm on the other side of the story, I really realize that many of these conversations are necessary to have with yourself. No matter if it's good, bad, ugly, however that is, you need to let that conversation happen. Second is that I really realized that maintain a self-caring relationship with yourself is by far the most important thing than anything else. Because you marks the start of your life and you marks the end of your life. And you are your most loyal, most genuine companion of yourself. So that moment was the kind of bell ringing for me. And then later, my family obviously got super worried that they lost contact with me for like a few weeks. Didn't know what was going on. They know that I got divorced. They were extremely worried that I was gonna do something stupid, which I didn't. Okay, I didn't. I just had a whole lot of struggle physically and emotionally at that time. But taking that faith with me and taking that realization at that time wasn't very a clear idea. During struggle, I think many people, you can vouch for that too, is that you have so many of these thoughts in your head, reflections in different angles and all that. You really don't have that right answer. We keep looking for that right answer during that moment. And I think that was one of the biggest mistakes I made, is I always trying to find the right path of fixing everything. But instead, during that time, what I should have done is just let it be. Physically, mentally, we're going to have to go through that grieving process. The thoughts that you're having during that moment sometimes don't even count. You forgot about it later on. But letting that grief out was so important. Having that conversation with yourself and making sure that you're feeling what you're feeling and recognizing it being so natural, so necessary, but also so normal as well. I think a lot of people kind of crucifies ourselves during that moment and say, hey, I shouldn't be feeling this. And some people just divert it from it or run from it, jump right back into the work, make yourself even busier instead of facing yourself, which actually prolonged this whole process of grief. And that's one of the things that I kind of can realize that during that 2021 to 2022 struggle. And then 2022, I moved back to New York as to my family's request. And also, I think it was desperately what I needed to. So I moved back. I lived with that sister. She was having her first baby. I think he was just born, and she has a golden retriever as well, which later became my best friend. And was very very healing. Golden retrievers are one of the best beings in the world that can recover so much of your emotions for you. Second is that I was quite still depressed in state physically as well. I pretty much locked myself in the room most of the day. But what is really good at that time, and looking back, is that physically being at home make you feel secure. And also, it started to fix my biological clocks. I was not eating right. I was not sleeping at the right time. I was essentially like my whole life fell apart physically. But being at home, family definitely gonna make sure that you eat at the right time, sleep at the right time, and not making the weird noises and crying at the wrong time. So that was the foundation of recovery, or self care to me in that moment. And it lasted almost 6 months to a year that I fully recovered from that. But one thing that I felt my family really did well, especially my sister and her husband did really well with me, was that they supported, but they never intervened. It was a moment of, hey, I'm just gonna treat you. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm just gonna treat you that you have almost like you have COVID. I'm gonna feed you, make sure that you sleep well. I'm gonna make sure, but I'm gonna quarantine myself for you for your recovery. They did not step in a way where that is disruptive in any cases. If I'm feeling good today, I'm feeling like I wanted to go out and do some workout and play with the dog or whatsoever, they'll say, you know what, let's go together. That's fine. I have a newborn kid and I have a little dog that you can play with. The dog seems to really like you. That moment of truth, there's no comments, no, oh, how you feeling today? What can I help you? There's no those pushy moments where I feel like, privacy and all that stuff. I'm a very much like talking to my no, in those moments, relationship wise, I'm more much a very private person. So they didn't want to step in and say, what can we help you? Let me sort it out for you, whatsoever. They just be there and they do not intervene at all. And that really allows me to have this recovering period in a very, very effective way. And during that process, slowly starting to pick up some entrepreneurship pieces as well. In COVID, I had some partners that reached out to me. We started some company together. And during this process, this whole year, I was able to essentially start an own company of consulting. I work with one partners in New York City as well. Turned out we started a brand together. So all kept starting when I started to feel better. These new friends, new circles that I'm building, starting to make me forget what was I like in the past. On top of building the biological clock back together, building the routines, building the weekly. Another big thing that I started during that time was I kept a weekly Bible study session with my newly formed friends in New York. I was able to introduce the friends in the church that I was with actually had a small branch in New York. So they introduced me, just like the family that I had. They weren't interfering. They're not really asking, private questions of what struggles you have and all that stuff. They're just, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're celebrating with us. I'm glad you're gathered with us to study the words of God today. And then that really gives me a new way of looking at things, and kind of makes me feel comfortable too, in a way that I don't have to talk about it if I don't want to, if I don't feel like I'm ready to. So that went on for almost 6-8 months or so. I would say it just slowly building yourself physically, slowly building the routines back with meeting new friends and start cooking healthy. So it's funny. My family only cook healthy food, so I have to eat healthy too. Can't be eating some that are fast food whatsoever. They sleep early. I gotta sleep early, and the Roxy is the name of the golden retriever. Roxy sleep early and gets up early. I have to be the one that really walks Roxy. So I had to get up early. I had to sleep early as well. In a way, magical way that it fixed all my biological clock, fixed my body before it fixed my mind. And I did that through starting things new in career, really look at different things and try out different things. And also at the same time, the Bible study, meeting new friends, that was the main reason that fixed me mentally, if you will. Now, in the next chapter, 2023 to 2022 to 2023, is when I met my now wife, Caroline. We met online, first of all. I picked up some gaming, like mobile gaming or PC gaming in the web. So I was able to met many friends in the game. And surprisingly, I wasn't a gamer before. I wasn't playing games whatsoever. I was very busy with career and all that. But during this recovering period, I had all the time in the world to kind of do whatever I want. So I picked up a couple games and also was a little bored as well. Very surprisingly, these friends that I made in games were extremely and preciously supportive. They're strangers on the internet. We're just like real friends, but without the burden of meeting in person, if you will. Many weren't, very judgmental in a way. In 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 some funny ways that I kind of look at it as well. So many gamers nowadays chooses game over human being or human real life because they have some sort of I wouldn't call it defect, but some sort of struggle. They're all very, very kind people. Obviously, you have some people are not the greatest human being in the world, but then if you have the kindness to match them, oftentimes you will share many struggles together, many words together, and without being judged. These people are just you turn on your computer, you turn on your phone, they're there, but when you turn it off, they're not there anymore. It's one of those moments that these friends realize that they're all temporary in the people's chapter. Kind of make me realize that many, many friends, family, or even connections in this world are temporary. Even though as long as you think they will be in your life, they're just this stop, they're getting on your train, the next stop they might be getting off. Just like the friends that you're in the game for. And a mutual friend during that time introduced to my wife Caroline at the time. So it's funny enough that we play the same games, we share the same interests already. And she was probably one of the perfect friend to play with at the time. Extremely quiet. Sometimes I even forgot that the couple friends of together, we had probably like 4 or 5 friends together playing together. Sometimes I forgot she was even on a voice chat because she did not say anything the whole time. She was that one kind of a quiet person that likes to listen. And later down the road, when we're dating, I realized that too. It was kind of a big struggle that the two of us had to kind of overcome with. Was that I found outside I feel like you're not giving the response that I'm demanding, or I'm asking you a question, but I'm not getting the answer. Then realize later on a funny thing I now joke around her is that it takes her 3 business days to give you a response. And because she wants to give you the perfect answer, but also she wants to make sure that she's thinking it through and digesting your question well. It's obviously not this 3 business days. One funny moment where we were taking a drive from Chicago downtown to the suburbs that she's living at. In that moment, we were dating for about 3 4 months already. So I'm that kind of person. I like to ask philosophical questions. That hey, you know what? What are the things that we're doing good? What are the things that we're doing bad? How can we improve? Da da da. Those kind of questions. Okay. When I ask those questions in the beginning of the drive, that's about an hour and 15 minutes drive. I asked in the very beginning. I did not get my answer until the very, very end when she was about to get off the car. And at that moment, it clicked on me. I'm like, okay, I don't think she talk or communicate in a way similar to what I do. Because I can talk when I think and I think when I talk. If you give me an answer right away, I can get on stage and give you a speech about it. But she was a complete opposite of that. And that was almost a moment that I realized that, hey, you know what? She's a good compliment. She's exact match of who I didn't have. Of being that person who's kind and loyal and basically being that moment and enjoying the silence, which at that moment I really, really needed it. And on the flip side, she needed me as a voice too. So in a way that I think she wanted to have that vocal person who think and acts, and almost in a way we're in sync on a lot of these things. So we connected right away when we first met, and slowly we started to find out we have many, many things in common. We were both raised overseas by grandparents. We came back to the US around the same time. And we also at the same time we enjoy the same game. We play about the same styles. We would talk. Our family members are very much the same. The culture that we live in and all of that. But it's just funny that I'm her voice and she's the listener. So sometimes I couldn't figure out what I wanted to say to her in a delicate way, but then she would assure me that you don't even have to say that because I get it. Those are the moment I realized that, you know what, it's so easy with her. It's so easy with her in the fact that I don't have to overthink about anything about this relationship, and I can focus on our us together. But also, her focus was on me, making sure that I'm doing well, carrying myself, eating well, and my focus was on her. So they kind of really worked out in the way that we're both very altruistic in a way, and we got together and we match up together because I'm the good talking up front. I'm the one that orders everything on the menu for her. She didn't have to say a word. It's that moment that you realize that, hey, we are a good match. You wouldn't be quite living effectively without me. And at the same time, if I look at home, I show them my deepest respect and appreciation for everything that she does at home as well. Because if you stuck me at home and doing everything that she's doing, I probably won't be able to. I'm not that kind of person. I want to go out and hunt for my dreams. I want to go out to do the adventure. I'll be that workaholic and be well, not so much now. Just so you know, I'm not so workaholic as in before. I have a good balance at home because I now have someone I really deeply care about at home, and she definitely put me in line for that. She's like, yeah, it's time that you gotta go home. And in a way, I think meeting the right person at the right time was definitely the manifestation of where I am now today. Even though I talk so much about the struggle, the recovery over the years and whatsoever, but I think I would not be complete. I would not be completely repaired or recovered in that way without meeting her and without choosing her. So that kind of wraps up my story from 2018 all the way until now. Last year we got married. We got married on May 25th of 2025. Both our side's family came, and we had the wedding in my hotel as well. So everybody was happy. Have work friends and all that. Not a very fancy, luxurious wedding whatsoever, but it was more of a family gathering. We're both very happy. We planned. We even decorated the whole thing by ourselves. I remember the night before, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., we were playing in the ballroom. Say, hey, I just set up this arch together and all that. It was definitely memorable. She was coming in and basically showing me the different dresses that she had, and we went out all the way until the day of the wedding. And now time flies. It's almost been a year, and later this year we're probably gonna be planning on our first baby. so def- so yes, I think the initial shows probably her due date is gonna be around late November, just around Thanksgiving time. So it's definitely a good story not at the end, but it's definitely a good chapter of our story.
Yes, wonderful story. Oh. But one question, how has your perception of trust changed after your divorce?
That is such a great question.
And what steps
So
can you take to rebuild that in yourself and others?
yeah, definitely. If I look back, there's two type of trust I put in people, and I think in the early on in the career or in the age in life, I thought trust was a one-way street. Trust about my ability to have confidence to place trust in somebody else. Where eventually, I got burned a little bit from the previous marriage and all of that. But right now, what I think is a trust is a two-way street. Trust needs to be earned, and trust could be defaulted, but I should be on the lookout of pulling it back at all times. And then most of you probably agree as well. I do think that it's a mutual trust instead of me blindly trusting everybody else or anyone else blindly trusting me. I'll make sure that they are cautious about what they're doing. But the overall perception of trust changed steadily in a way that I will still be that default of trying to help people, trying to think that most of the people are kind and with goodwill. But then the moment I realize that someone is not on the same page with me, that's when I pull it back. And you essentially have to earn it back in a much harder way of the trust that we have lost on it. That's basically the mechanism change. In the concept of trust overall, I do think that it's the two people that it has to be based on mutual respect It has to be based on transparency. It also has to be based on actions. That's if I sign it up now. Before it was more of a blind defaulted trust that I place in people and try to give it out as a sign of honor from myself. But now it needs to be an earned badge for the people that are around me.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. Any other questions from the members or insights which you'd like to share? Okay, yes, Eric.
I got a question. I know in the beginning you said something about modern dating. Could you elaborate a little bit more on what is modern dating?
I think what she meant was modern dating. So me and my current wife met online completely through a mutual friend. We did not have any contact in person until about 6 to 8 months that we were dating. I made the first visit to Chicago from New York. That was the first time we ever met in person. That was probably the first time I actually see a. We probably had like 2 pictures prior to that, and I do not suggest that. Please video chat and do all that stuff before you do it. But we were at the same age, and I kind of had the trust in her. But we were doing online dating for about a year and a half until I decided to move to Chicago. So it was a mutual thing. Definitely online dating. And she did some too. I did some too during the whole process as well. Tinder, all this dating apps. So we've tried that. And then especially in this case, we went through a gaming round where you met in a game, you chat outside or chat in a conversation app or a messaging app afterwards. And then we saw probably like 1 or 2 pictures prior to that. At that moment, we're like, you know what? Pictures could be fake or just upper face. Anything could be fake at this point in online, especially nowadays with AI and all of that stuff. Even what you see on the videos could be fake too. It's really finding that connection and sometimes that leap of faith in a way, but in a protective way, please. In a protective way where in a public space, you're not going to go into someone's house right away or whatsoever. But I made the leap of faith, and she was that kind of person that we were raised in the same way and all that we connected. And it's still, at the end of the day, it's online dating, still has risk to it. I do think that the younger generations has more comfort level to it. But also, there are more verification processes you had to go through and all that stuff. But overall, it still has risk. Sometimes the people that you met online isn't quite as they're only showing the good parts of the life, could be. And sometimes on the flip side, that many people that you met in person could be actually better than the online version too. Some people are shy online. Well, the other way around. Some people are super shy in person and then like talkative online. Actually, but you'll be the judge of that.
Yeah, I know
Okay.
other people that they put their picture like 10 years younger, and then when you see them, oh my, it's like this
Definitely.
is not the
Pictures
person
does
I
not
met
tell the full
online.
story. Definitely. And I definitely would suggest, if you're doing online dating whatsoever, you definitely got to go through the verification process, just making sure that the person that you're seeing, at least at the very least, doesn't have ill intentions through the offline meetups. But then if you don't really like the person in public or whatsoever, I wouldn't feel shy of declining it because probably the other side have seen it before. Um, but I just got lucky, and I think the way that I would talk, the way I'd interact with people as well. If you're not quite of a genuine person, you probably wouldn't be bored by me in like the third chats. But if you're a genuine person with me, you'll probably realize that hey, this could be a good friend and all that stuff. But definitely be safe out there.
But is it okay to instead of ghosting someone, I think it's better to tell directly and be honest to the other person that let's stop it.
Yeah, in a
But
way, I think it's necessary to be clear in many instances as well. Not only on the offensive side, I do think that some people might take, especially in the early on interaction with some individual, you may not know how the other side would react to a sudden reflections or sudden decisions like that. But I would just kind of focus on ourselves. What we also have the right to make a decision for ourselves and how we want to navigate through into relationships. So it is necessary to say, hey, you know what? Let's put a pause on that. I would like to take a break. I would be clear about it, because sometimes what I found out on the online basis, that if you don't give the clear answer right on the spot, it actually hurts more. Not only to yourself, but also for the other side too. Like, they might think that they still have a chance with you. They might still think like, oh, vaguely, is this just a way of playing it off? Or is this just a way of, different interpretations? But I think being able to be clear sets the boundary very far, and also puts the weight on the lever as well, making sure that your voice is being recognized in the severity that it needs to be.
And you're not wasting each other's time.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think a lot of, especially, I wouldn't say just younger generation, online dating, this thing, I personally think it's an all age thing. It's more about different sites, different perspective, and different needs from different age groups. It's just, at the end of the day, a platform. And people put all kinds of filters on it to look for people who are look for the specific kind of person that they wanted to date with. And sometimes I also wanted to say, I had funny thing between me and Caroline. First time we chat online in a way, I was very clear. I just got out of divorce. Just be very transparent. I just got out of divorce. I'm not looking for any kind of romantic relationship whatsoever. And just stand clear and don't talk to me in any romantic way. I'm as the dude. I said that to her, and she's probably like, okay, not gonna say that, not gonna like over tempting you. But then I wasn't shutting myself up though. I basically let it organically develop. I didn't say I'm not gonna treat you like a normal friend. I'm gonna keep a certain distance from you whatsoever. I didn't do that. Just keep your mind open. Sometimes the not maybe not the 5-star candidate in your job pool might turn out to be the right person too. We all looking for that glamorous, perfect person that we look for on the paper, which I probably was thinking the same thing. Now I can't even recall what that looks like, and now that I'm married to her, she is the perfect person. I can't even look back and say, hey, what was I thinking? It was the kind of person I need to date at that time. I think just keep an open mind when you're dating. At the end of the day, just making friends, expanding your circle, and also at the same time trying to understand different cultures and perspectives. Maybe sometimes a little bit of fun stories that you can tell. At the very, very worst, you get to try out a new restaurant with someone that you didn't know. That I always say. Worst case scenario, food doesn't have to be bad then. So that's the way how I look at it. But I thought I was very open, and I wasn't very frequently using online dating either prior to this, but more so like I wanted to expand my little circle and connections network at that time, just making sure myself was feeling comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Yeah, I don't have a question either, but I'd like to say congratulations to you.
Thank you, Les.
And I think the way you approached the whole second marriage was a really, really good approach. I mean, for you to be so young and have the wisdom to communicate with your wife for a while, get to know her, keep an open mind, because like you said, oftentimes we have this fantasy about
definitely.
We had this fantasy about this woman or this man. And that's what it is. It's a fantasy. And so the way you approached it, you kept an open mind, and then this person just appeared. I'm sure that's how I felt, like they just appeared, unexpectedly,
Mm-hmm.
So then as you communicated with her, and I think that's a big part of it, communicating. I mean, that's huge, and being direct about how you feel about whatever you feel. And that's something that men find difficult to do sometimes, you know what I'm saying? But you seem to understand that at the young age that you're at right now, and that's commendable. that's pretty good. And so, yeah, man, I just congratulate you. I mean, I think you're on the right track. So,
Thank you. I definitely agree with you too. I spend my time just like how I mentioned my career too. It
mhm.
was a realization where I've always been hunting down goals and
Yeah.
achieving them. And almost like relationship, it seems one of them too, where I was looking for looking for that woman of beauty, women of some certain standards that are what I'm trying to achieve, almost, if you will. But then later on, you realize that the real job here is to finding beauty in the person you're dating.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
really finding the precious moment that you're cherishing. And I think I moved away. Now that I'm realizing, I moved away from looking for that person, but now into building that relationship. We're
Mhm.
sharing the memories together. It doesn't really, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter that much to finding that right person
Right.
at that right time. The odds of that is such a low game.
Mhm.
And but instead, finding someone that you feel comfortable with, finding your best friends, finding someone that you can hang out with, someone you can spend the most of the time without getting really tired, finding this person that I can enjoy silence with. She doesn't feel awkward when I don't talk. I don't feel awkward when she doesn't talk. It doesn't need to feel that void all
Mhm.
the time with this
Right.
person.
Right.
And then all the memories started to build from there. You
Mhm.
took that person's hand and you know what? I'm gonna do good to you. And saying mutual respect, that person said it back to you. I'm gonna do good to you. I'm gonna be loyal to you. I'm gonna be that person to always be there for you. And I think that's a promise that we made in marriage, right?
Yeah, and then when you do it, that makes it even better. You know what I'm saying? I like the other part when you talked about it first, when you went inside yourself and start talking
Yeah,
to yourself. Yeah, you're getting to know yourself,
yeah,
which prepares you to get to know somebody else. And
yeah,
that's really exciting. That's some exciting stuff right there. And seems like you that the step by step process. It just sounds like the way to go because sometimes we get anxious, we get in a hurry, and our motives might not be in line. It might not be the right motives why we want to get married. We want to get her to get married, or we on this timeline, or whatever it is. We might have motives that does not fit in the scheme of marriage, and then we
yeah,
step ahead prematurely. I've done it, and and then not talking. That's a huge right there. Don't
yeah,
feel like you
definitely.
gotta react. You gotta prepare an answer before they get done talking. You know,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And that's really it's kind of exciting. Cynthia always get these interesting speakers.
Of course.
She
That's
is a magnet of attracting people of stories.
I'm he agreed to share his story with you because I know it's a great story to share to all of you. It's a really an inspiration. Another thing, can you identify any negative beliefs you have about yourself that may have developed during your marriage? Or how can you challenge and reframe those beliefs?
You mean previous marriage?
In this new marriage, was there any negative belief which you have developed or which you are entertaining? And
Definitely.
then, and how can you reframe those beliefs?
Yeah, it's the first one that popped in my head right away is that I was, even though I wasn't raised by my parents, but I was heavily influenced by my parents. The way that they deal with their relationship with marriage had a profound uh, impact on who or how I perceive marriage. The first attempt in my previous marriage is almost like a rebellious attempt to basically not do what they did, if
Mm.
that makes sense. It's like, oh, they went through the whole process of dating, and they were very cautious. They're very traditional and conservative in many cases. But I wanted to be that person to break the rules and just get married within 3 months, 4 months, whatever that is. And then you just have this person from a completely different background, just appreciate all of that stuff as well. That was at that time, I thought it was a revolutionary thing for me to do. But then in the current marriage as well. So one, you break that side of yourself, and then later you recover, you disbelieve in any of the things that you believe at that first marriage, but now slowly through this marriage, I think what it really happens is that I find a good balance. And to your question, the disbelief that I had in the past is that I thought I was going to be the extension of my parents' story, not only in career, but also in marriage. This is how my family was when I grew up, and then that disbelief was this should have been the way that I developed my family too, and that to me it was just false. You grew up in a different time, you grew up in a different environment, and you grew up with different friends and circle as well. And I think at the end of the day, it's important for me to understand that I am not an extension of anyone's story, and I have to believe in the fact that I have to sort it out myself. And this is my story. This is my story. Excuse me. And I'm going to spend my life and creating memories and to tell my kids, and also tell them that you are not an extension of my marriage or my life. You have your own. You have your own way of doing and thinking and creating. That's one of the first things that popped out of my head. Another disbelief I would say in myself at that time, I wasn't sure if I would ever recover from the previous marriage. That was definitely one of the big disbeliefs that I had, was especially in the 2021, 2022 period that I haven't met friends, I haven't do all that. I was in the rootless state, if you will. I'm not gonna say that, it was almost like a disbelief in human being, but it was close to that. That you put all of the faith and trust in someone, you put all the money, you put all the time, energy, faith, all that in that person, and it got shadowed within a couple months. And that person would not even look back at you gratefully, even. So that was the moment I felt like, hey, you know what? How am I going to recover from it? Is people or other side of this, is others even worth trusting? And I think Caroline, my wife, she restored that. She doesn't have to speak a whole lot or preach so much about it. She did it with action. She did it in many cases with silence. She didn't have to speak about it. She really just, she'd be there. And when I'm mad or when I'm having a bad day at work and when I go home, that she's always there. She can't promise she will solve all my problems, but she promised she will always be there for me. She didn't do it with preaching. She do it with being. If that was one of the things that she was able to restore my discipline. Last thing that I'll probably think of is that I thought I could live without my family for the longest time, because I moved away from my parents probably like the age of 16. My family wasn't really quiet or anything like that. My parents weren't like that type of parents that very loving in any way. They're typical Asian parents are super strict on everything. And then growing up, it always felt like, I wanted to run away. I want to do my own thing. I don't want to be controlled. I don't want to be nagged about anything whatsoever. But at the end of the day, I moved out for a good amount at that time, almost 10 years, with being myself and doing whatever I want in my life, which I experienced some success with. And at that moment, I thought myself was invincible. I thought myself could be living without my family whatsoever. But then this whole journey made me realize that, you know what, family is all you got. Family is who you are born with. Family are going to be, a good family too. And obviously, there are family members who are not so quite much in your corner. But I would say most of the true family that you have, we're privileged to have, are in the corner for you. Even though in this case, my family during this whole process wasn't really intervening in anything. They weren't really giving me words of wisdom or whatsoever, trying to drag me out of the pool. But they were just there. You're hungry, they will feed you. You are tired, they got a bed to let you sleep on. And if you are broken, you come home, they always got a bedroom for you. They always welcome you home. That's something that I thought I would be able to live. I've always wanted to be that independent man in a very old age and try to be that person to provide and all that stuff. At the end of the day, you realize that, you know what? it's okay that you take a break, to take a little break from sometimes, and then it's okay to sometimes be a little weak and go back to your family and say, you know what, I'm tired. I just want to sit at home for a second. I just want to be with my parents. And as I'm growing older too, those are the moments that you realize that these times that you're spending with your family are precious. You know, my dad used to tell me one thing. He's like, we go home one day, once a year to see your grandma. Count it back how many times you can see her again. Count it back. If you go home once a year, how many more times you can count the hours? How many hours do you get to spend with her? And those are the moments I kind of started to realize that I want to spend as much as time as possible with my family. Because one day I don't. There's a Chinese saying. I don't know even how to translate. Essentially, paraphrasing it now, essentially means the saddest thing in the world is when you wanted to give back to your parents and they're not there anymore. Yeah. So that moment, these are the moments that my parents were able to be there for me. My sister, my brother, and all of that. They were able to be there for me. I wanted to be spending as much as time as possible when I possibly can, enjoying sometimes argumentative, a little bit of memory, but it's all part of it. But you wanted to be looking back and not having regrets when the sad time comes.
Oh
That's
my.
all I read. 3 disbeliefs that
Uh,
I was able to shatter.
Beautifully said, Frank. And I'm so proud of you. You could, how I wish you are also my son.
You gotta introduce it to your kids now. You know, at some point I gotta go visit you, and you know,
You
because
got to
this
meet
is
his brother and
OG.
sister.
Oh, man.
But I'm really so proud of you, what you have become. Imagine that big change from that time I've met you up to this time.
Thank
Big
you.
change, and all in a positive way. What you have become, the best version of yourself. I love it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
good. Can I ask a quick question?
Of
Uh-huh.
course, Eric.
I got two, really. But my first question is, Frank, you said y'all had arguments with your previous wife. What was some of do you think, or what was some of the causes of those arguments?
I would peel it down to a couple layers. One, it's usually things that are small, usually lifestyle or life habits related. It's called. I now I look back and look at it. It's just we weren't able to reconcile and find out a way to work for both of us. We want the habit to work for ourselves individually, but then we didn't have the maturity or the expertise in managing our household to say, you know what, you could have your peas and I could have my corn. You know, you just gotta find a way to have that wisdom to say, um, it could work for both of us. And I think at that time, the root cause of many of the argument is that we thought it's only one way or the other. We thought it's either your way or the highway, or it's my way or the highway.
Okay.
And people feel like it's so strongly to be that person, and they forgot that marriage is a different game. It's not about yourself, especially when me at that time, I was a very strong-headed person. She was too. She had her own dreams she wanted to achieve and all of that, and that time it almost felt like it was unreconcilable. But now in retrospect, if I had the wisdom at that time that I have right now, I would have looked back and, you know what, I will provide what I needed to provide as a husband, as a support to you, and I wouldn't be so much in your pot and trying to say, oh, you got to do this and do that. That's none of my business. You got to make sure you are supportive rather than controlling. You want to make sure that you are supportive, but also compromising at the same time, because there are preferences. There are necessary things, and I think what I do with my wife now is that, you know what, here are my bottom lines. Don't break them. don't. These are my absolutely not. And I hope that in the process of dating, you figure that out with that individual, of that you're absolutely not things does not conflict with the absolutely nothings of the other person. And then the second layer, you're talking about, yeah, that could do either or. And the most superficial layer is something that I just don't care. You can do the way you want. I just don't care so much about it. And I'll be very clear about it. Say you're going to pick the color of the paintings that you're going to have in the living room. I really don't care. So you can go ahead and do all of that. But what I do care is that when I'm having, say, work-related information, work-related tasks that I'm really, really desperately trying to complete and all of that, I would hope that you can cut me a little slack of going home slightly later today. That's something that try to set the boundaries early on. And, there are things, if we sorted out our own life, there are things that we really don't care. There are things where it could be yes or no, doesn't matter. There are things that we say absolutely no, or absolutely yes. And in that process, I think sometimes it's luck. You get to find that person that matches perfectly, but sometimes it's that filtering moment that you have to ask the right question to that person. Mm-hmm. Does that answer your question, Eric? Mm-hmm. All right.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Any other insights or whatever? Barbara just mentioned in the chat that thank you for sharing. You have a very refreshing way of looking at things. Les mentioned that thanks for sharing. That is powerful. Did it with being. You got a lot of wisdom. I agree.
And I just want to say thank you for sharing and congratulations on your new bundle coming on the way.
Thank you. A little bit nervous. First time parents. I'm a little bit nervous there. But
you guys are going to do great.
Yeah.
You figure it out as you go. Believe me, they don't give you a manual with those little bundles and you have to kind of navigate it.
And I was laughing with my wife. I'm like, you don't get a refund, by the way. You don't get a refund either. You don't get a manual. You just kind of go along the way. And also, no matter how hard you try, it's not going to be the perfect parenting.
No, none of us are.
Be perfect
part of learning. That's part.
It is, yeah.
Definitely. It's a trial and error sometimes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Frank, and I wish you all the best. And I'm so excited for your baby.
I will definitely be sharing on Facebook.
Yes, please. Yes, please update me, update us.
Awesome.
And I wish you all the best. And by the way, for next Monday, we'll have a panel discussion about the challenges. So I've invited some relationship coaches about the challenges in the dating world, the current challenges in the dating world. So it's another exciting topic to discuss. So hopefully you'll all be able to join us next Monday. Okay.
All right, awesome.
Okay, thank you so much and have a blessed evening to all.
Thank you all for listening.
Okay,
bye-bye.
Night, everybody.
Have a great week, everyone.